As soon as I won Miss USA, I was given a stage. I was only 19 years old. I knew I had a responsibility. God used me and let your light shine through me. Call comes in for a national commercial, made it my own, and ended up getting the gig. To this day, one of the top Super Bowl commercials of all time. Just got married, and here I was, rug just pulled out from under you. How do you move forward? Oprah Winfrey's involved at this point. I isolated and I started reading the Bible. I did this for months. That was my therapy. Jesus, take the reins. Carrie Underwood, thank you very much. You have a choice. You can allow those moments to shape you or break you from something so horrible. Beautiful things can come from it. Life has to hit you a few times for you to know that God's plan for your life is way greater than any plan that you could have for yourself. So Alejandro at the time was in Colombia. They were literally about to start shooting. They did not have enough money to even start production. 5-day water fast. I'm going to try it. You should really do it for a prayer, an intention. That's what I'm going to pray for. Day 5, the money came in, a God wink. When you look at your life from a higher perspective, your choices tend to change. Life is so short. Do the things that really set your soul on fire. That thing that gets you so excited that your eyes light up and you get super jazzed. Do more of that. Do the things that give you joy.
We have a very special guest today, someone you probably recognize, but more importantly, someone whose story goes a lot deeper than most people realize. Today's conversation is with Ali Landry, former Miss USA, entrepreneur, and woman who has lived through massive highs, devastating lows, and everything in between. What you're about to hear is not a surface level interview. This is about surrender, about control, faith, heartbreak, and rebuilding when life doesn't go the way you planned. We talk about the moments that define you, the ones where you either hold on tighter or finally let go. From betting on herself in a full room of models and landing one of the most iconic Super Bowl commercials of all time, to walking through betrayal, loss, and finding her way back to faith, to witnessing what she calls undeniable God winks that changed the trajectory of her life. This episode covers the full spectrum. There's something in here for everyone, whether you're chasing something, healing from something, or questioning everything. You're going to find a moment that hits you. This is a conversation about purpose, perspective, and what happens when you stop saying I have to and start saying I get to. Before we start, we'd be very grateful if you'd like, subscribe, and share our episodes, as we're here to help as many people as possible via No Surrender Stories, and we'll get there much faster with your continued support. This is No Surrender. Thank you. This episode is brought to you by our partners over at Don't Trade It In. It's the best and fastest way to get top dollar for your car from the comfort of your home. Please visit don'ttradeitin.com today. All right, we've got Ali Landry joining us now on the No Surrender Show. Ali, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to have this conversation.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm excited too. One of the things that struck me as we were preparing for this recording was that you and I have something really interesting in common. Your spouse and my spouse come from the same city in Mexico. Number one. And number two, we both found them as a result of writing down exactly what we were looking for and who we hope to find in a partner. Assuming our research is correct, as you know, when we were preparing, it was part of like a journaling process for you. Mm-hmm. And for me, ironically, I know there's a connection with Tony Robbins also. Mm-hmm. I think you actually know him, whereas I've just been a fan and consumed a lot of his content. But I went on a ton of first dates, and I mean, a ton. For me, was about finding the person who is as close to a perfect match for me as possible, because there's no such thing as perfection in a person. And I went on all these dates and dates and dates, and I stumbled across this article or video from Tony, and he told the story of how he met his wife. And it was the same thing. He decided he was going to sit down and write out exactly what he was looking for. And within, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks, he found his wife, which was pretty interesting. Those two things in common, you know, I thought it was really interesting as we were preparing. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your book, Reshape Your Life. Don't settle because you are worth it. If you wouldn't mind just sharing the story as to why you decided to write the book.
The reason I wrote the book, writing a book is a very daunting task. I feel like I had the company Reshape at the time, and it was really about health and wellness. And I started that because I was on my own health journey, and I was really looking for answers. And I feel like I was pulling from. I couldn't go to that one-stop shop to find everything. I was pulling from all these different resources, and I really learned a lot through that process. And part of it, I'm a sharer by nature. And that was part of the reason I wrote the book, because I knew that with some of the information that I gathered over the years from experts, like you mentioned, Tony Robbins, Robin Sharma, and again, everything in the health and wellness space, I knew it could help other women who were sort of going through the same thing. So it's part autobiography. It's definitely grounded in my faith, but also science backed from doctors and some of the top researchers, and sort of pulled information from all these places. And definitely it gives women or men true takeaways, like step by step what you can do in specific situations in your life. So that was part of the reason why I wrote it. It was not easy, I have to say, and I had a lot of resistance in doing it. But when I did, it's very fulfilling when you're able to speak about it and then ultimately connect with other women through your shared experiences.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And before we started recording, I mentioned to Ali that while we were preparing for this, my team and I took a deep dive into the book, and I ended up reading pretty much all of it, even though it's written primarily for women. Everything you just said is spot on with what I learned. I learned so much. I have a long list of notes. I want to thank you for taking the time to write it, because there's lots of great stuff in it.
Oh, thank you. I find myself, even like right now in my life, even though you write a book and you figure certain things out, like all of us in our lives, sometimes you forget, and you sort of go back to those old habits. And right now, I sort of feel like I'm in a time in my life, like I want to reread my book because I need a refresher on those things. And I actually went to a book launch yesterday by a doctor. She wrote a book about optimism. And it's funny that she spoke about a lot of the same things I speak about, but it's really interesting how people, she was speaking about it in a different way, and it landed on me. It landed with me in a different way. So I think it's important, even though sometimes we're all saying the same thing, to really sort of speak that out into the world, because you never know how someone is actually going to receive it or when that information is going to land.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because I stopped counting at around 400 books that all focus on self-improvement
Yeah.
or successful people or autobiographies. And, the name of our show is No Surrender. And it's quickly become pretty evident, even though we're only on episode like 11 or so, that even though there are certain specific things that people need to do to ensure they're as successful as possible, hearing the different ways that people have gone about doing those things is really important. Something as basic as a morning routine can dramatically affect your whole life.
Dramatically. I mean, I think that is a key thing. I just want to make sure while we're having these conversations, we can leave the listener with some true takeaways. And I think that's a huge takeaway. And it's not something that comes easy. I'm going to use the term fall off the wagon, but life hits you, and kids and schedules and everything. And sometimes you sort of get off of that morning routine. But when you lock in and you can really fulfill that list, it is a absolute, I would say, guaranteed game changer. And for all of it's different. And I find that as I reevaluate, as each year goes on, each year that morning routine kind of shows up a little bit differently. I think it's important also for us to be flexible. Can I ask you, I think we should share that. What does your morning routine look like?
It's pretty intense because I haven't perfected it, but it's evolved over the years. But first thing, like right when I wake up, I do my morning meditation and prayer. And that I either do while I'm still laying in bed. There's a pose called the corpse pose where you basically are just laying flat on your back. And I'll do that either for it ranges because, as I'm sure you know, in meditation, you can go off into your own world. So anywhere from 45 minutes to I've meditated for up to 2 hours. I stay very busy, but sometimes, like on the weekends, I might have an opportunity to do a longer meditation, but usually it's 45 minutes or so. And then I alternate between that, and I have a massage chair and some noise canceling headphones that I'll also use every other day because I also do sauna I try to do that like 3 times a week as a part of the morning routine. So I get the meditation out of the way, and then I do my weightlifting. And then after the weightlifting, I'll do cardio. And then after cardio, I do the sauna on those days. I also do intermittent fasting. So I typically don't eat before like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So make sure to hydrate in the morning. That's pretty much it. I try to follow that. I exercise 7 days a week and I meditate and pray 7 days a week. So everything else is at least 5 days a week.
Obviously, that takes up a little more time, but like your non-negotiable, how much time are you taking for that?
It's at least 2 hours.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Well, one of the only perks to being an entrepreneur is you have more freedom. As you know, I mean, you're an entrepreneur too. But
Have more freedom.
yeah. So that 2 hours, I can't say it's a 2 hour block, So like if my day gets kicked off, like since I own several different businesses and have different teams that do different things, sometimes I'll get that I always get the morning prayer done and meditation. That's an absolute, I don't even look at my phone until I've done that. But there are some days where I don't finish that 2 hour block until like 9:30 at night. And I don't eat until after I do it. So some days I don't eat for the first time till like 10 o'clock at night.
Really long fast. Yeah. Okay. I see you. I know how you roll.
Yeah. And I've got a question on my list here about fasting because you had a really interesting experience that you outlined in your book while you were fasting.
I wanted to share a little bit of mine because I think yours is very, like, you give yourself a little bit more time than I do. And I really struggle with that in the beginning because I'm also type A. And so if I'm reading something from an expert and they're saying I need to do this, I want to do it perfectly. And sometimes if I can't accomplish that, I just sort of want to give up. But I've learned over the years that I have to give myself a little bit of grace. And my schedule is obviously different than my husband's. And he definitely protects his morning routine differently than I do. And I know a lot of people are probably in the same exact situation as me. So what works for me is I do very similar to you. Is as soon as I open my eyes, I start with gratitude before my feet hit the floor. I then down a liter of water, start with hydration. And then we really have encouraged within our family, we bought, I just have it, I'm on my desk, so I'll show you. It's called the 5 Minute Journal. It's really a gratitude journal. We got it for our young boys. We sent one to our daughter who's in college. And we started doing this as a family and really want to instill this in the kids, like a practice of gratitude. So here, even though I'm saying it, I do think it's important to write it down so you can write your 3 things for the day and then you reflect on it in the evening. And when I was at that book launch yesterday, which was really interesting, she said, and what I love, it has that end of the day opportunity to say amazing things that happened today. And she said something similar. She said, instead of writing your to-do list for the next day, write your ta-da list, like all the amazing things that happen. So again, like we were saying, people say things different ways and it lands on you differently. I was like, oh, I like that. I like that little ta-da list. So I do write in my journal. And then I get up, I make what I call my superfood coffee. That was one of the main things for me. It's like locking into that morning routine. When I was looking at my health years ago, I was like, what do I do every single day that could really be affecting my health? And in my coffee, I was putting horrible toxins. I was using, I'm not going to say brand names, but really bad stuff in my coffee. And so I was at a very large, the largest in the world, like Health Expo. And that was my mission, to find my alternatives to really add into my coffee so we could move forward in a very healthy way in the morning. And I did. So I put my very specific ingredients, including protein powder, in my very, very clean protein in my coffee. I use the MCT oil. I put in collagen. I use Laird Hamilton Superfood Creamer. I use a non-glycemic sweetener, or I'll do it black. So my coffee, really like you, it's not necessarily fasting because I am taking in calories, but that takes me through till, it's almost 1 and I still haven't eaten anything. So I'm sipping on that coffee throughout the day. So I really enjoy that. After I drop off my kids, this was my hiccup, is I wanted to do that 2-hour block in the morning or that 1-hour block or 20-minute or whatever, but I couldn't because of that routine where I had to drop my kids off at school. So what I do is I take the children to school, and then when I get back, then it kicks in. And then I sit down and have that true prayer and meditation time. And for me, that time is definitely the breath work, the meditation, and then deep prayer. Now with AI, it's so funny. You try to use it for good. And I've been using AI based on my deepest, most honest desires and putting together a prayer. And they really come out quite beautiful. So I'm making my own daily prayers. So I say my prayers, and then I start like the exercise sort of routine, like getting out in the sunlight, all those things that we know, getting my vitamin D, walking in nature for me is a really huge thing, like getting out with the dog. It brings me joy. It releases all those beautiful endorphins as exercise does. And once I do those little things like giving back to yourself, and I think it could look different for everybody. Again, like I write down, right now I'm on a new journey, which I just wrote it down on my piece of paper. I just had stem cells. I went to Panama to have stem cells, many different forms injected. And now I have to add in a hyperbaric chamber and the red light therapy and some different protocols to really enhance that treatment. So again, it changes, but I think what we're both saying is I feel like if you don't start your morning the night before with a plan of what your day is going to look like, if you just kind of open your eyes to the alarm and you get up and go, I feel like life kind of hits you like a Mack truck all day long. You're constantly deflecting what's coming instead of being present and grounded, receiving and then reacting. That's sort of how I look at that protected time in the morning. And I think it's a gift to ourselves. And for you, it's 2 hours. For me, it may be 20 minutes. But for some people, it may be 10. We have to be realistic. And that's why I just want to tell people it is okay. It is whatever you need, but just give yourself that gift of that honored time in the morning, and it will definitely change your day.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. You covered a lot of ground there. A couple of things came to mind. We noticed in your book that you did recommend also like a green juice, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you still do the green juice?
I do still do the green juice. Sometimes I buy it at the farmer's market. Again, it just kind of depends on my time. For me, I was having digestive issues like a lot of women have. So I was really, again, trying to focus in on my morning routine. So part of that was I was working with a wonderful nutritionist out of New York. Her name is Sarah Raggi. She's actually the one that created the protein powder, which is pretty incredible. You get like 43 grams of protein for each serving, which is pretty amazing.
If you don't mind, what's the name of that protein?
Her name is Sarah Raggi Wellness, Ragge, Sarah Raggi Wellness. She also has an alkalizing powder and this wonderful protein powder. That's what I put in my coffee. We're all looking for that protein these days, so and different ways to get it. Now they're having liquid protein. So I just like that I get so much in one shot. But she really helped me with my morning routine. And along with that green juice, I was doing a glass of warm lemon water. Now I actually add a very high mineral content salt to that. So my cells can really absorb and get all the, hydration that I need, because not all water is created equally. So I'm doing lemon water, a liter of water. I follow with the warm lemon water, now added salt to that, and then the green juice. And I call it like the get things going in the morning routine. And it really, really helps with the digestion instead of having to fall back on, which I did in the past, other things that would really help me to move my digestion.
Awesome. Yeah. And then the other thing that came to mind when you were outlining your morning routine was the gratitude. There was something I saw about there's at least one thing that you say every day in your gratitude portion of your prayer. Does that ring a bell?
I say so many different things. I mean, there's a lot of things that come to mind. I think when you said it, what came to mind now is what I work on the most is really like that interior dialogue that I have with myself. So I think we're all struggling. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy, right? And we get in our own way. It's not the world, it's us. I do, as I'm going back to that type A personality and trying to control everything, instead of looking at things that are coming my way and like, oh my gosh, I have to get this done to this. I have to do this. And it's like the have to already is putting me into like a negative space. and changing that wording to, I get to do this today. Okay, so I get to have this amazing interview today, and hopefully we're going to reach the people. I get to take my kids on a 2-hour field trip to San Diego. I get to, and just that one switch of that word, it's crazy. I do believe in the power of the way you speak to yourself, that's for sure. And I call it in my book, flipping the switch on how you approach things or how you think about things. Just that change of that one word really affects me mentally.
Yeah, yeah. I think I might have found it here. I think this came from the book, Use Me, God, Show Me How to Take Who I Am, Who I Want to Be, and
Yeah.
What I Can Do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself.
I've always felt that way. I felt as soon as I had the opportunity, as soon as I won Miss USA in like the 90s, I was given a stage and in life at that point and a voice that had been amplified. And I did not take that lightly. I was only 19 years old and I was already thinking that way. I have no idea where that came from. I didn't come in a family that my parents are making me write in a gratitude journal. I didn't, it was just something that landed on my heart, and I knew that I had a responsibility. And after that, getting into the entertainment business and giving a larger stage, and my voice became a little louder as the years went on, I did want to use it for good. I did want, and going back to my spiritual side, like I just said, God, use me and let your light shine through me. People could get to know and build their relationship with Jesus through the light that's shining, his light in me that's shining out. Then that's what I want to do. I rather show than say, be an example instead of speaking those words. So that's sort of how I like to roll through my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's right in line with what the whole purpose of this show. You might not have seen the logo yet, but it's no surrender. No is red. Red could represent the blood of Christ or stop, like stop sign or red light. And then surrender is white. Show me the light, surrender. And it's really interesting how your life changes when you surrender. That's another thing we noticed throughout your book is the word surrender a lot. And your husband, when we had him on the show, he's like, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to come on the show is just the name. A lot of people think of surrender as in like they're kind of giving up, which you could look at it that way on the one hand. But on the other hand, if you surrender to your higher power, your God, and you also try as hard as you can to do what you're passionate about, that's kind of like the ultimate combination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many things that led us to live that philosophy. And life has to hit you a few times for you to know that God's plan, it's that saying that God's plan for your life is way greater than any plan that you could have for yourself. Any plan. And it's very hard for us to let go, like control, very hard. And have like blind faith. That's so hard. I mean, it's easy to say, but it's really, really hard. And I feel like that in itself is a practice. And I challenge people to try that. Let go. And trust me, I am a control freak. Like I love it. And I do go into panic mode when I release a little bit. So this is harder for me to do, I think. But when I do it, it's like I see God's hand like moving things in my life because I know it's not me. I'm not controlling at this point. And when that happens, it's like that confirmation, like this is how it should be. As I show up and I feel peace, like this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is coming to me not for myself, but for a bigger purpose. So I have a lot of peace and excitement when those sort of things happen. And it can only happen if you really practice surrendering.
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm kind of a mixture between type A and type B. I definitely am not B, but I'm also not the guy that's going to like go to a party and work the room, just like very type A on that spectrum, I guess you could say. But control is important. And as you said, it's very hard to just surrender. But as you also said, once you do, it's amazing what can happen. And that actually, you mentioned Miss USA, and you were in college, and a professor kind of warned you. You were like a communications major, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And
Yeah.
the professor warned you, like, it could be kind of a hard path. You might have to be an intern. And your path to becoming, I guess, first Miss Louisiana and then
That's
Miss
right.
USA manifested as a result of this almost like grand plan that came to you. If I understand correctly from, the book and everything, my goal is to win these pageants and then use that as a springboard. Can you talk a little bit about that?
First, I have to say, like, I grew up in a very small town in Louisiana. I was looking like, what are the opportunities like around me? Like, how I'm going to actually network enough to really secure a job that's going to really take me maybe to the next level. I had no desire in bringing somebody coffee. And at the time, I was really thinking that I was going to start in news, right? I was thinking that, like, I mean, that was as far, again, like my plan as opposed to God's plan. Like, my little small town vision was to be the news anchor of the local Channel 10 news in like the biggest city that was near me. That's all I could see. But I knew I wouldn't get that job. So I was going to have to start an intern and bringing somebody coffee. But for me, that was not happening. So I was just like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do to like expand my circle, my access? And I was like, oh my gosh, I could compete the time for Miss Louisiana. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm very competitive by nature. I didn't, it's not like there was this big prep. Like a lot of these girls, they devote a lot of time, money, and this is it for them. For me, I was just like means to an end. So I went in there. I was very focused. I competed in sports my whole life. So kind of that competitive mentality. I went in there and I ended up winning. And with a homemade dress that was made by Miss Jan down the street when these girls had
Wow.
like $1,000. I think me and my mom designed it. It's really cute, but ended up winning. And I one of the sponsors was a seismic data company out of Houston. And I secured a job as PR for that company. I mean, oil field was not in my plan, but PR was something interesting and it was getting me outside the city. So I was like, great, job secured in my mind, not bringing somebody coffee. And then from there, part of the thing was you have to go on and compete for Miss USA. And again, it really was not like the title of Miss USA. That was not important to me, like at all. And also, I was very satisfied that I had secured my job. But again, going into something like that, I was there for 2 weeks with these really incredible women, beautiful, smart, talented, active in their communities, like really go-getter, forward-thinking women. But I'm very competitive. So I knew that it was a mental game the entire time. And, when you're there for 2 weeks and it's grueling and you get in your head about this person is brilliant and amazing and this one has this most beautiful, whatever. I just knew that it was the mental game. And if I was going to win, that was what's going to do it for me. And that's what I focused on. Because by all means, like within the standard of pageants, I was definitely not the most, qualified, but I stayed in the game mentally. And I honestly think like that's what pulled me through there.
That's really cool. And then you did the PR thing, which I don't recall anything about that in our notes from your book or anything like
Oh,
that.
I
But
didn't. I didn't ever take the job because I won Miss USA, and then they whisked me to California, and then I'm on a full year tour of the country and working with very large brands, and then then my shell really opened up and had a lot more opportunities. So I used that title, like the Miss USA, to really secure again, like the next job for after it was done, because for me it was just a job.
and then there was another kind of a surrender moment for the Doritos audition.
The Olympics is going on right now, and there's a free skier, and I can't remember her name. And they were interviewing her, and they asked her, "Did you see that interview?"
Yeah,
And they asked
yeah.
her, "How do you when we ask you these questions, you just answer like so quickly?" And she's like, "I'm a very pensive person. Like I do a lot of like." I process things a lot like internally. Like I really think about things. I really like dive deeper. And I feel like that for us, like people who meditate or when you're journaling, when you're doing, it's a different form of that. Like you really try to get to know yourself at the deepest levels, right? So you know what's really important. So when something comes in and it's not that, it's very clear. And also your life becomes, and your answers and clarity, it's kind of like black and white for the most part, not a lot of gray areas. So for me with that Doritos, it's very similar to those other things. Like here I am in Los Angeles, a call comes in for a national commercial that was going to air during the Super Bowl. I didn't know that that was so big at the time, but I go in there and I walk in and there's a line up against the wall of these incredible girls. And I just, part of me, I didn't, again, like I had to do that. I wasn't in the state of mind like, oh, I get to. I was like, oh, do I really want to do this today? How am I going to separate myself from these girls? So I just thought, going in again, like very competitive and just like, okay, so I was in gymnastics most of my life. I got to do something different. I'm going to do these flips and these things and do this. And that actually ended up getting me the job in the end because I didn't just go in like just another pretty face and read the lines. Like I took control of the situation, made it my own, and ended up getting the gig. And it ended up being to this day top Super Bowl commercials like of all time. All these things that we're talking about goes back to getting to know yourself and really use figuring out what your superpowers are because we all have them. So I think that's like one thing, like I really identifying your strengths and making them work for you. And then going in there, giving it your best, and then surrendering to whether it's meant to be or not, or God's will, or whatever you want to call it, and being able to release that, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And for the people that are watching or listening, I think the skier you're talking about is Eileen Gu. If anyone wants to look her up.
Look her up. You're going to want to. We should all hear that. That is really great.
Yeah, she's brilliant. I think she scored like a 1580 on her SAT. She's a Stanford student, like incredible lady. It's going to be interesting to see what all she accomplishes. But back to what you were mentioning, there's another thing that we had noted from your book that goes hand in hand with what you just said, and it was to focus on things that set your soul on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's such a good way to put it because a lot of people ask me when it comes to entrepreneurship, like, so I've got this idea to do this or that, and I think I want to do this, but that might make more money. And there's a lot of people who say, well, go after whatever will make you the most money. And I say that entrepreneurship is so hard, or it can be. It usually is so hard that you have to do something, in my opinion, if you're going to have a long run at it that you're passionate about. Because if you just do something to make money, you'll eventually learn. I think it was either Tony Robbins or Larry Yatch, a Navy SEAL who we had on the show that does a lot of coaching. He wrote a book. One of those guys mentioned that I think they both have said similar things, but they have billionaire clients who there's no way they're going to ever need any more money. And there's, in many cases, some of the most depressed people that they coach.
I was thinking when you were talking, because I look at myself and I'm definitely like an artist, not necessarily so part of my brain is a little business minded and you are interested in the money, but really I'm interested in the art and the creativity and the joy and what ultimately fulfills me. And I do believe the money will come. But that specific thing that I said is because of the realization that life is too short. Like when you have something in your life that really puts things into perspective. I mean, it hasn't happened. It will happen to all of us at some point. For us, it happened, I don't know, let's see, maybe 8-9 years ago, that put things into such perspective that you realize, you take risks, but it's only because you realize like tomorrow is not promised. And when you start to live your life like that, like how many summers do we actually have left in this lifetime? How many weekends do I actually have when my kids are at home? How many years do I have when I have enough energy to climb Mount Fuji in Japan? When you look at your life from a higher perspective, your choices tend to change. So that's where that comes from. Do the things, because life is so short and fleeting. Do the things that really set your soul on fire. And when you're doing them, you know that that's it, right? Like do more of that. Like there's like, what is it? That thing that gets you so excited that your eyes light up and you get super jazzed. Do more of that. And it might not be the thing that makes you money. It might be the hobby. It might be a side hustle. It might just be your personal thing that you give your gift to yourself to give you joy. But make sure that thing is present in your life every day if you can. Again, that goes back. That's another thing to plug in our daily thing. Like do the things that give you joy.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually got the chills from that, from what you just said, because like for me, it's for whatever reason, it's always been anything with wheels and a motor, like racing a go-kart or racing a motorcycle or racing a car. Like for whatever reason, like there's this like meme of a baby in a womb that's like steering and shifting and like you can see his feet on the pedals and like that was me because like I mean
Wow.
yeah, so
That's yours. So that's amazing.
yeah.
I think as adults, like you get older and responsibilities are there and you sort of, that is the priority in the day, the work, the this, the that, whatever that is. And you forget to do those things that really bring you joy. But it's those things that you do that spark that light inside of you. That's what sustains you. That's what helps you to show up a better father, mother, friend in your life. When you're already full and fulfilled, you're not looking for all these other things to like fill you up, whether it's, spending money and shopping or whatever that is. We find all these other things that we think is going to fill us up, but actually leave us empty. But when you have that true joy that comes from those things that light you up, you're not looking outside to kind of for all those other things and grasping.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mentioned, I think you said something that occurred 8 to 10 years ago, and if I were to guess, I would guess it's the what Ali Hondro, your husband,
Mhm.
mentioned the story of losing two of his family members, and I know you were close with them too. Just so the viewers if or listeners, if they haven't seen Alejandro's episode, it was a tragic situation where two family members were lost for no good reason at all. I mean, they were literally taken and never came back. And the no surrender thing is kicking in here for the episode because it's the times when you're the lowest
Yeah.
that will often, as you kind of already said, it's where you learn that you need to live your life. You're down there at the bottom in the valley. Psalm 23, verse 4. For whatever reason in my life, that's the one that talks about walking through the valley of the shadow of death. I shall fear no evil because you are with me, basically, you being God. If I remember correctly from your book, was that the time when you all, I think growing up, you were Christian, but not necessarily Catholic. Alejandro's Catholic, and you guys were praying, or you started praying to Mary. Was that when that occurred?
Yeah, I grew up, we both grew up Catholic, like in Louisiana. I don't think there's anybody growing up. I didn't even know anybody that wasn't Catholic. As I got older, I had friends that were Christian and Alejandro, we both had a very similar, born and raised Catholic. And then we started, in college, we were going to a Christian church. We were going to like Bible studies, which was also great because we were learning more about the Word of God. And then both came back to the Catholic like faith in our own ways. But at that time, yes. So that was the time I was referring to. You have a choice in those moments. Couple of things. Like I believe that you can allow those moments to shape you, it's choice, or break you. And it's difficult. And I think too, the other thing, what I notice a lot when life hits you, I'll just call it that. It could be with disease, it could be with broken relationships, family, many things. But it's a low time in your life. And it's like the crossroads, which way I'm going to go. How am I going to choose to move forward after this? Because I will be a different person. So what kind of person do I want to be? So in that moment, as we're processing all of it, we were very angry. We were, you don't understand why something like that happens, like to incredible people. Like, why is this happening? My husband, especially, was very angry with God. Like, how could you? You could not, there was no understanding, I guess. And you want to figure it out. Like, you want the why to be answered. And there was no answers. And some people that were his father was so faithful, and we really tried to be faithful followers as well. And so what is like, why? Couldn't get that answer. And we were going through the motion. We would go to church because of our kids, but still we were just doing it. And still, I feel like that relationship was severed a bit. So I was asked to host, it was a Catholic conference. And because of that sort of going into the Christian church a bit, my friends didn't really, they didn't have a devotion. Christians don't necessarily have a devotion to Mary so much. And I probably bought into that a little bit. Like the whole idea with, why would you pray to Mary? We could just pray to Jesus, so that sort of was in my mind still as I had come back fully to the Catholic Church. So I'm at this event. And again, like when you're at your lowest, this is when people grab onto God, right? Thank goodness he's always waiting, like, come to me, I'm here. So in that moment, I was hosting a Catholic conference, and there was a priest that got up and spoke, and it was Father Michael Gately, and he has a book called 33 Days to Morning Glory. And he started talking about Mary and consecrating your life to her. And I don't know why, again, it hit me in that moment. It was just like a drop down that came to me, and I was just like, Mary is the one that's going to take especially my husband, back to her son. That was like literally the conversation. And I remember he was in the room in that conference. He didn't even want to come down. He joined me, but he didn't want to hear anything. So I was on the side of the stage. As soon as Father Michael Gately came off, I said, please, can you speak to my husband? And we pulled them off to the side. I called Alejandro down. He ended up meeting with Father Gately, and he and I started that book together. And I honestly can say, it's what I believe, is that Mary is the one who brought us back to her son and,
Wow.
healed that relationship where it wasn't even necessarily important anymore for that why to be answered. It needed to be in faith, showing that there is a greater purpose. And if we open our eyes to it, we will realize it. And from something so horrible, could definitely, beautiful things can come from it. And so that's how we move forward after that. And honestly, it was Mary. And here we are today. And Alejandro just finished a movie about Mary. To say there's a great devotion there is an understatement.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And then you guys, to kind of stay on this topic and so everyone can understand how connected it is. If I remember correctly, you guys met at a theology class.
Yeah, we did.
And if I remember correctly, you went to that class with no intention. It's not like you were going to a class to try to meet a guy. Like, weren't you dealing with something
Yeah.
else that you'd been through or something?
Yeah. I mean, I think with the other thing that I was dealing with, I was in a relationship with also a public figure, and Oprah had covered the wedding. It's crazy.
Mm.
Oprah covered the wedding and was supposed to go back on the show to talk about it. I had dated him for like probably 6 years. And like literally in the final days, I found out there was extreme, like I call it that Tiger Woods situation of, deceit and betrayal in so many ways and shapes and forms over the years. It wasn't like it was just one person or one thing. It was a lot, and it all came flooding in the very end. So for me, and I talk about it in detail in the book, that was probably the most pivotal time in my life. That changed me forever. And such a great example of something so horrible. Like, I was young, I was in my 20s and just got married and had envisioned what my life was going to look like. And here I was, like the rug just pulled out from under you. And then how do you move forward? How do you move forward with a person that has no remorse, that never apologizes, and you just got to pick it up. At this point, it's not even just you. It's like Oprah Winfrey's involved at this point. All my family and my friends showed up at the wedding, and it was a lot. It was a lot. And instinctually, what I did, and I very grateful to my Christian friend who had given me a student Bible and a workbook that went along with it called The Purpose Driven Life. And I could have done so many things. Like, again, that was that fork in the road. Like, am I going to go this way or am I going to go this way? I even remember my mom was like, you should be so angry. Like, you aren't angry. Or, I know other friends that have got, they start going out, they start with drinking or all these things. I isolated and I started reading the Bible. Like, I would have I'd have an emotional, like, breakdown or something that's coming on. And I would immediately go to that student Bible so I could look at, like, betrayal, and then flip to this page, and it would give me the passage that would relate to that what I was, like, dealing with, that emotion. And then I remember it just felt like a washover of peace. And then I did this for months. Like, the feeling would come in and I didn't know what to do with it. And I'd go and find it and then read the passage, then peace. And then the journal, I have it probably right here too. The journal I was reading every day, and it would then refer you to a passage. And then I would relate my own life and what was going on to that passage. So that was my therapy. That was my therapy. And I got through that experience unscathed. Like, I came out like a
Wow.
rock star, like way better than how I went in. Like, I took off the blinders after that. I asked God to come into my life. Like, that was the other thing. I was like, listen, Jesus, I don't trust myself anymore. I was in control. I was making these decisions, even though you sent me signs, like little flags all along. I didn't want to listen because I wanted to do things my way. I'm not doing that anymore. And I am so sorry. So I need you to literally take my feet and do one foot in front of the other, walk alongside me. And you have to, I'm giving it all to you. I'm not making any decisions, and you have to make them for me. So that was our kind of, that was my come to Jesus moment. We had that conversation, and I let him, Jesus, take the reins. Carrie Underwood, thank you very much. Jesus took the reins. And listen, my life has never been the same since. Better. Yeah, I'm so grateful for that moment. So grateful. I wouldn't have met my husband if it wasn't for that. And because of that, I started going to a Bible study. It was a lot of entertainers here in town. It was called Going Deeper. And I met Alejandra there. Wasn't looking.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
that's when I started writing in that specific journal. It is going back to our first thing that we talked about, what I wanted in a partner, in a spouse, in a future husband, because I did not want to the reason I was writing it is because I didn't want to get distracted. People were asking me on dates. I wanted to be crystal clear when something came in and it was not that. I needed to know because I did not want to waste my time. So that was so helpful to do that, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I believe that 99.9% of things happen for a good reason. And then that, 1 in 1,000 thing we have to leave to evil.
Yeah.
And there's like fate and destiny. And as we just touched on, without the valleys,
Yeah.
then the mountaintops don't seem nearly as beautiful,
Yeah.
because there's no point of reference. So
Yeah.
and it's easy to say that not being like way down in the valley, because what we've found is that people that listen to this podcast or watch it, some of them are really deep down in the valley. On the other hand, it's hopefully your story will help people. I'm working my way. I read the entire New Testament start to finish, and then I went back to the Old Testament because I wanted to read about from start to finish the teachings of Jesus, and then go back and look at the beginning.
Hmm.
And the Bible can be confusing, especially if you look at like Genesis and Exodus, the first couple
Hmm.
books in the Old Testament, because God is extremely intense with, like there's the story of the Pharaoh in Egypt. God ended up taking the firstborn sons of everyone in Egypt because Pharaoh didn't respect God's wishes. And people read stuff like that, or they learn about stuff like that, and they push the Bible away. They're like, oh, that a God couldn't do that. On the one hand, on the other hand, if you do again go to the New Testament and you study the teachings of Jesus, he is God's right hand, and he is the one saying you don't fight fire with fire unless you absolutely have to. I don't know everything about the Bible, not even close. That's why I'm rereading it, but it's very interesting how your life can change when you do some of the things we've been touching on, and you especially find that faith and let your life go down the path that it's supposed to go down without you controlling everything. It's wild. It's really
Mhm.
wild.
It is. And it's always, it's like you can't take that for granted. I think, like our walk in faith, it's not always easy. And so that's why with everything, it's consistency. It's like constantly clinging to the vine, like what you said, like, Lord, what do you want to tell me today? What are we talking about? What do I need to see? What do I need to learn? Like, what are you bringing into my life for me to grow from? I also started last year and then again this year is, trying to do the Bible in a year. I have my bag right behind me with my workbooks and all my different things. And it's fascinating. Like once you get in your groove and it's really fascinating. And it's a great story too. It's just really, really interesting and so applicable even now to our lives.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Jesus, there's a lot of like fasting is mentioned a lot in the Bible. And
Mhm.
another thing that we had in our notes here for your
Mhm.
episode is that, and in case the viewers and or listeners don't know about the movie Sound of Freedom, that your husband Alejandro and you, you guys had to fight really hard to get that movie out there. And for those of the listeners and viewers that don't know, it's a true story about that focuses on an officer. I think his name's Tim Ballard. Yeah, and his mission is to free as many children from trafficking as possible.
Mhm.
And the movie has to go into pretty specific detail as to how bad the problem is. It's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, child
Mhm.
trafficking. But
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, what I was hoping you could share is that you were in a fast. You guys hadn't secured all the funding yet, and
Mhm.
like, I'm sure you remember it because
I
it's
do.
your story. If you could tell that story, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. So know that I'm a little bit of a biohacker in that space with all those guys. And I say guys because I always feel like there were more guys there than girls, like Dave Asprey, Peter Diamandis. And, I really enjoy that. And I think, when you have health issues, you spend your life pretty much chasing them. So I was dealing with enough things again, why I wrote the book and with these people and one of the other experts, doctors that I followed mentioned that she was doing a 5-day water fast. Like she did them periodically, water fasts. And I was just like, 5-day water fast. Okay, well, I'm gonna try it. So I did, and I wasn't doing it for any specific reason than just as an experiment to see bringing down inflammation, clip brain fog, like all of that. I just wanted to see. Also, my husband was out of town, so I wasn't necessarily cooking for him and didn't have that temptation. It was just a good time. So I was like, I'm going to do it. Um, so I did it. And then I started, I was like, oh, okay, let's see what I could expect. See if I could find some information on what to expect each day. And then I found a doctor, his name is Dr. Daniel Pompa. He did a day by day, like what to expect, what your body's going through, 1 through 5. So I believe I was on, I don't know, his day 1 or day 2. And then he's like, you should, if you're doing this fast, 5 days, you should really like do it for something, whether it's, like a prayer, an intention, a something. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like of course I should be doing this for some. I'm not going to go 5 days not drinking water without having an intention or prayer attached to that. So that's what I'm going to do. So Alejandro at the time was in Colombia and they were literally about to start shooting and the actors were arriving and not all the money was there. And they did not
Oh,
want to tell the actors because production would have been shot down. So they're just pretending like it's all good. Like we're moving forward when not all the money was in the bank. They did not have enough money to even start production. And I'm having these conversations with Alejandro, like, he's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So I was like, you know what? I don't know if I even told him at the time. I was like, that's what I'm going to pray for. That's my intention during this 5-day water fast. I am going to pray for that money to come in before day 1 of production. So they never have to tell anybody. And it's going to go. And it's a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of money. So that's what I did. So on my 3rd day, I think of my fast, again, press play on Dr. Daniel Pompa. And he, in that video, mentions Tim Ballard's name. And human trafficking. Like, I can't remember in the context. It's like something like Tim Ballard and like maybe like making that. I don't know how he made it a part of the past, but I don't even think I heard anything but that name because this is the
Yeah.
person my husband is the movie is based on is Tim Ballard. And then the day before, I needed to pray for the intention, and the intention is for the money to go in to the movie about Tim Ballard. So I was just like, what is going on here? So I immediately sent a message to Tim, sent a message to Alejandro. I mean, I would, and I was starving. I was, am I like hallucinating? Like, I was like, whoa, that was like a crazy moment, really crazy. And I'll tell you, day 5, the money came in and they started production. I don't know if it had anything to do with my water fast, but that was my prayer and my intention. But it's just, things like that. That's amazing. I call it like a God coincidence, a God wink, if you will, because that was insane.
Yeah, that's like divine intervention
Yeah,
at its
exactly.
finest. Almost like on the unbelievable spectrum, like
Unbelievable because I wasn't even like why was I even doing a water fast? Who does a 5-day water fast just on like literally the next day? I was like, okay, well, I'll start tomorrow. There was no premeditative kind of like, oh, I'm doing it because of it. No, I was just like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And so that came out of the blue too. So yeah, it's those sort of things.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like I just said, it's almost like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we've touched on Tony Robbins. I think I saw that he said that he ended up getting involved a little bit with the movie too, didn't he?
Hmm. He did. He was one of the producers on the film. He even went on a mission, an undercover mission with Tim. On one of these missions, they put him in prosthetics or a disguise, and he went on a mission to save children.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
that's also crazy because, like you said, and for both Alejandro and I, Tony Robbins was someone as a young adult that we listened to. I had the tapes, read the book, and here we are working with one of our mentors, somebody that really guided our life. So that was also really special.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. You ran the Boston Marathon for the Boys and Girls Club, if I remember correctly. And then you also climbed Mount Fuji. Was
Huh.
was Mount Fuji also related to a cause, or was that just I'm gonna climb this massive mountain to prove to myself and everyone else that I can?
On a whim again. But funny thing is, I was at, like we talk about the Tony Robbins and the Robin Show, like this self-help. Again, I love that space as well. And I was at a convention and it was a self-help, like growth, personal growth event. And at the end, my group, people I did not know from Adam, decided they want to challenge themselves. And what are we going to do? So let's go climb Mount Fuji in Japan. So we were all game. We're like, let's do it. And I went on this trip with all of these people and we climbed that mountain. We peaked above the clouds. We slept on the mountain. We went down the wrong side. We got lost, but it's okay. We did the thing. And, like even those sort of things, when you're pushing yourself, I feel outside of your comfort zone and using those experiences for personal growth. I remember climbing up that mountain and having prayers and having intentions and really going deeper in like what it meant in my life. Like, what are the mountains in my life? Like, what peaks do I want to hit? Like, whether you're saying the valleys or those difficult times, and how am I going to choose to pursue or move through those things? I use that mountain as a lesson, and journal through that as well. But yeah, that was also really cool to do.
And then yeah, you've touched on several different doctors, and in your book you mentioned Dave Asprey previously. We've touched on Tony, Robin Sharms, so the monk who sold his Ferrari.
They also wrote a little bit on the back of my book. All of these guys. I have Robin here. I have Dave on here. And, that was also a really big deal to me because, again, they helped me in my journey so much. And so, again, like these mentors to like give me their stamp of approval was also really special.
Wow, and that's a copy of your book,
Yeah, this
right?
is a copy of my book right here. Yeah.
Nice. And they actually physically wrote on your book.
Yeah. It's all here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's on the back of the cover. That's super cool.
Yeah. Super.
Yeah. I didn't know if you meant that they like were like physically writing notes at a conference, like,
Oh. And then I even got a photo after with Tony holding my book because I was like, Tony, you're in it. Like, there's a lot. And he actually asked me, he had a book, it's right here, Life Force, with he and a longevity scientist called Peter Diamandis. He asked me for a quote in this book. So I was able to be a part of this book. He asked me to participate.
awesome.
Mhm.
And for people that are watching or listening, obviously they can, dig into these coaches that personally. But did you like how did you meet all these people? Did you just reach out to them or what was the process?
No, I would go to, again, like I was chasing my health. I still am chasing my health. And I think it's also part of my personality. I'm a very inquisitive person. I ask a lot of questions. I can also talk to a tree. As you can see, I have a pretty outgoing personality. So I have no fear when it comes to talking to people. And people are generally interested in helping other people. So I met most of them at conventions. Um, and talk shows. Like if I'm a guest on a talk show, like I remember cornering the sleep doctor, who's now a good friend of mine. Um, we were both doing a talk show together, and I was like, "Sleep doctor, oh my gosh, I cannot sleep. I need to talk to you." Like what, So he and I started a relationship and built a great friendship, and still do things together. So that's really how all those relationships were formed. Yeah. I would go to their conferences, but then I would get a chance opportunity to meet them, and then here we are friends, and now I have their phone number and their email, and can kind of go to them for questions or things I needed.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's Dr. Michael Bruce, right? The sleep
Yes,
doctor.
yeah, Dr. Michael Price.
Yeah, yeah, in case anyone wants to check him out.
Yeah,
That's super cool. There's a specific term that you use, wellness explorer.
Wellness Explorer.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same way. That kind of going hand in hand with all these books that I read or listen to. Always be learning, the phrase
Yeah,
is,
student of life. Yeah,
yeah,
always have, keep that spark for learning ignited. Always, I think that's super important.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. In closing, I like to ask our guests for advice comes to mind first for those people that I touched on previously, the ones that are like really in a dark place, or maybe they lost someone for no good reason. Do you have any words of wisdom or specific things like we've already touched on? You prayed to Mary. Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you would recommend they do?
People believe in a lot of different things. I mean, I can only speak to what I believe in, which is Jesus. And I really feel like he doesn't want us to worry. He doesn't want us to worry. By us worrying means that we don't trust him. So I think you laid all those feelings, hurt, anger, sadness, depression at his feet, and you ask him to carry you. He's there to do that. I've done it so many times, and I'm telling you, he picked me up. He carried me through so many times. And the other thing is, don't just sweep it under the rug. Like, don't just pretend like everything is okay. Like, we're so used to saying, like, people are like, how are you? Oh, everything's great. No, everything's not great. So when you get home, you don't have to share all of this with everyone you meet, but when you get home, you need to sit with that and you need to figure it out. You need to sit with that pain because if you just sweep that under the rug, and I talk about that in the book, it will come back at some point in your life. And we don't know in what shape or form it's going to come back. So that's why I think it's so important that you face those feelings and those emotions and deal with them and really just lean into your faith. And it's hard, it's really hard to see that there's light outside of the tunnel, but just trust that I've definitely have been there in the deepest, darkest ways. And I hope you see that light right now through me because it's there and it's definitely waiting for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That it reminds me of we had a Christian singer on the show named Amy Lord,
Mhm.
who Ironically, our first guest, his name's Mark Devine. You may or may not know him. He's another Navy SEAL author, coach type guy. He was our first commitment, so last name Devine. And then Amy was our second commitment. So
Lord,
Divine Lord. Yeah. Yeah.
that's good.
Pretty wild. Pretty wild. But yeah, Amy, she dealt,
That's
oh
wild.
God, she went through a lot. And she had a record deal with Sony, lost that due to issues with drugs and alcohol. And she was about as far down in the valley as she could get. And she just literally, I think she said, went down on her knees and said, God, please, if you can help just get me through this, I will sing your praises for the rest of my life. All the glory will be to you.
Mm.
And sure enough, she went from kind of more of like a rock recording artist to, like I said, a Christian singer. And she, to this day, like she's like over 20 years sober now. And she goes and speaks at 12-step programs and then obviously performs. But yeah, it's interesting what can happen if you do exactly what you just said. You know, basically realize that there's no need to worry. You
Mhm.
just have to know that with faith, you can get through anything.
Yeah. And I don't say that lightly because I know people hear that who are in that moment and they're like, really? Yeah. But trust, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And when considering that, the easiest way that's coming to mind, because I'm sure that like these people who are listening or watching, they're going to be like, okay, so here I am. I have nothing, or I just lost everything, or I just whatever. Like I'm in this terrible position. What's step number one? We've touched on the Bible. Another thing that comes to mind is like go to a church, even if you don't normally go to a church. Does anything else come to mind for you for step one to take that first baby step?
I mean, get on your knees, lay it all down, and be completely honest and transparent. And if you are in that place, you are very raw. So I think that's the only way you'll probably be able to be. You got to lay it down and you got to give it up. That's what
Yeah.
you do. That's step one.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
ask for support. That's going to be the next thing. Ask for support from family and friends. Just so you know that there's other people that love you and that are there from you. It could be family, friends, it could be community, it could be a priest. There's so many people that are there, just so you know that you're not alone in this, but know that going through it, it's you. And they're just there to give you the strength to know that they're standing on the side of you, but you have to do the work and you are strong enough to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And ironically, in my notes here, I had, and I think this came from your book, don't give up on faith as it can be all you have at times.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only thing that like gets you through, because everything else, when you're in those moments, and these, if you are there or you have been there, you know that everything else, that's how it was for me. It's like you're able to see the BS in the world so easily. That's why during that time with the betrayal that I was dealing with, I couldn't even watch television. I remember, and I love Oprah. I was watching Oprah and I couldn't even hear it because it was all just like so trivial and not important and didn't really matter. None of this is important. And the only thing that got me through was like the word of God. Like that's the only thing that felt real and tangible. And that was like landing on my soul. Yeah.
Yeah, that's again awesome. It's really interesting to hear testimonies, you know, that are like unscripted. Like we, just so everyone knows, Ali and I didn't have a like a pre-show meeting. There was no script. You know, I had some, as you've heard me say, some notes. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just, I think the conversation has just flowed really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a absolute pleasure for our listeners, viewers. Obviously, we recommend your book. If they want to, I guess, reach out to you, yeah, she's for the people that are listening, she's holding it up. Reshape your life. Don't settle because you are worth it.
Mhm.
And then I actually also, it's on Audible. So for those
Yeah.
of you that like to listen to books, you can listen to it there. And I'm assuming, actually, no, you're on Instagram. Any other ways you want to mention if people want to try to get in touch with
I
you?
mean, I'm pretty much on Instagram, and you could DM me or we could chat there. I'm more than happy to do that. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
This was fun. I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
we were going to go this deep today. So this is good. This is good for my soul. Good for my soul. Good for all of us to have these kind of deep conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks again for joining us. And
Of course.
we didn't really touch much at all on a lot of what you covered in your book when it comes to the specific health type stuff. And you mentioned maybe having another
Yeah.
episode for stem cells. So maybe we could combine it all into more of a detailed health discussion,
Yeah.
specific things people can do to be healthier.
Yeah. Well, it's so much now for women's health, especially like I'm in my 50s. So, I was just having a conversation with the girls yesterday, women yesterday, and it's very hard to navigate the health space, especially when you're dealing with hormonal changes. It's like that it's not really a one-stop shop to even a doctor. You have to screen your doctors to see if they're even up to date on hormone replacement therapy or sleep health, and most general practitioners are not. So then you're going into the woods and finding all of these people. So it's a broken system, unfortunately, our healthcare. So myself and a few of my friends are definitely trying to navigate as best we can and share as much information as we can. So that's sort of the current journey that I'm on in my health.
That's awesome. And it goes hand in hand with a lot of what's going on with the the political landscape's very confusing these days, but
Mhm.
if you consider, what's best for Americans, we've got a lot of things going on, with a lot of people don't know how dangerous the dyes that are being removed out of food are right now. That's heading in the right direction, but the connection between big food and big pharma is very deep and dangerous, and even insurance, like
Mhm.
people would like question why would insurance, like if you think about insurance, like health insurance having to pay out for people when they're sick, why would they want to be connected with big pharma and big medicine? And I recently learned that the more people that hear about getting sick, the more people are scared about getting sick, which actually increases the revenues for the insurance companies. So there's this giant kind of like triangle between pharma, food, and insurance, where I hate to say it, but it's almost like we've become livestock that are just like, instead of treating the problem with a lot of, natural wellness type stuff, they are actively doing whatever they have to ensure that you stay stuck in the system. And that's why I think it's something like 70% of Americans are overweight or obese right now.
Course. And then if you go outside the system, you're paying everything out of pocket. It's terribly expensive, even for those that can afford it. I mean, it's terrible. It's so frustrating, and it's terrible. Like even all the practices that I want to get are definitely not covered by my insurance. So it's very frustrating. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm already looking forward to the next
Yeah.
episode.
Okay. That's a whole different thing. But thank you so much. Got to kick into mom mode right now and go grab my kiddos. But it was great talking to you, and best of luck with everything. I can't wait to hear the episode, and maybe we'll chat again soon.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan. You have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Have a good
Uh-huh.
one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.